Welcome to Soundbreaker. In today's episode, we're talking to Kirsten Spruch. Yes, German pronunciation. I perfected it. Who is a communications marketing professional in the music industry. Or should I say the music tech industry? You cannot just say music industry anymore. You got to add the word tech. Um, Also a singer and a songwriter, and currently a media, no, she is the media influencer relation manager at audio manufacturer Sennheiser. Yes, everybody knows Sennheiser. It's a German company. Kirsten Spruch, pleasure to have you. Please introduce yourself for our audience who might not be familiar with you before we dive into it.
Yeah, thank you for that lovely intro. I think you pretty much nailed it. That's everything you need to know about me. Um, but yeah, my name is Kirsten. I'm born and raised in New Jersey, New York, and I live in LA now. And usually I'm the person interviewing. So this is strange and cool to
Well,
be on
I
the
got to
other
come to your
side.
podcast then. I got to come to your podcast then. That's it.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Yes. Okay, so let's take it a bit back. So, your earlier years before you kind of got involved in the industry, you were involved in the music industry in different ways. How this whole journey started? If you can just give us a bit of a summary on that before we get into what are you up, what are you doing, and how are you changing, and how are you influencing all of that?
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you mentioned, if you look at the trajectory of my career, which is kind of what we're doing today, you'll see that I've done PR, social media, influencer marketing, like a range of things, journalism. But the one common denominator is music. I feel like it's like my passion for music that revealed my passion for all of these other things. I've been obsessed with it since for as long as I can remember. When I was like 10 or 11, my dad taught me the chords to Vera by Pink Floyd from the album The Wall. And then it was like three or four chords, and I was like, took those, see a dad, and I used those same chords to teach myself a couple of Taylor Swift songs. I think
Hey,
it was like 15 or Fearless or both or all, all of them. Um, so yeah, that happened. Got really into guitar, got really into writing my own songs. I would like go to the Apple store at the mall in New Jersey just to play on GarageBand. I was totally obsessed. So when the time came to get like an adult job, um, I thought to myself, if I can't be an artist and make money from that, I know that I want to work with other artists. So I got really lucky and I found an internship at a PR agency that was doing PR for indie artists. And obviously, it went well because after the 3 months, they offered me a full time position. And so it was really there where I found like my mentors. A lot of the friends that I made there are some of my closest friends to this day, and that's over a decade ago now, which feels insane. Um, but yeah, I was just commuting every day and doing the absolute most that I could and just learning on the job. And turns out that I really liked it because I stuck with it for the next decade.
so pretty much you would say that working at the PR firm earlier in your career, this is really what sparked the interest more into like, and that's what ignite your path to the music towards the music business or the music industry by working for that PR that focused on indie artists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was cool. Like all the artists that I worked with, I genuinely loved. I got to go. I was again in New York every day, and I got to go to all their shows after work. And everyone that I worked with loved music, of course. So I was like, yeah, this is great.
Interesting. Let's talk about Babel Music. That you were on you were on the management team there. How
Mm.
did that came along, and what was your what how did you you know what, excuse me, my question should be, how did that kind of influence your path more, and change your approach to the music business?
Yeah, so Babel was such a pivotal time for me because while it was still, in the same industry doing sort of the same thing, it was also kind of on the other side of things. I was going from PR to now being the journalist. So that was also kind of like, again, early in my career, that was kind of the first opportunity I had to really hone in on my leadership skills. So honestly, it was transparently a lot of making mistakes. It's cliche, but learn from your mistakes. That is such a real thing that I did. Just, going with your gut, following your instinct, trying things, and then taking a step back, asking yourself, like, okay, did this work? What didn't work? And then just readjusting and giving yourself grace. Um, the other really cool thing about that position was that it was a small company, which meant that, you can actually make a change internally if that's something that you want to do.
Hmm.
And so when I stepped into the managing editor role, I really wanted to build more of a team and more of a structure. So we filled out the team a little bit more. We got a couple of more writers on board. This was before COVID, so everyone was still coming into the office every day in Brooklyn. And I saw a whiteboard on the ground in our office, and I was like, we are taking that whiteboard and we're hanging it on the wall. We're going to hang it next to the writer's table. And every Monday morning, the whole team is going to get together and we're going to go over the news and whatever features everyone wants to write. And in addition to that, I'm also going to set up one-on-one meetings with each writer. And that sounds like such a simple, like, yes, obvious thing. Duh, we're going to have like one-on-one calls, but like we're calls today, post-COVID meetings. But that was something that I kind of introduced to the team. And through that, I learned that showing up is so important when you're managing a team. Like, I think that if you have leadership that never shows up to anything that's on the calendar, they're kind of quietly telling you that it's also okay to not show up. So I think, just being physically there and having that consistent check-in time so that everyone knew what to expect, and just being able to say, like, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer right now, but I'm working on this for you. I'm like actively here and I see you. That would just make people feel a lot more at ease and help build trust that way. So yeah, I learned a lot of things in that role. That was one of them.
Amazing. In regards to artist interviews, you've done quite a few artist interviews, I would say. And who's some of the favorite artist interviews that you've done?
Oh my
And
God.
how do you prepare for such things? Let's see. Take us
Yeah.
through the process.
Oh my gosh. How much time do you have? No, just kidding. I mean, it's impossible to like pick any favorites. I look back at the roster of artists that I've interviewed, and I feel so lucky. I've interviewed Lizzo, Philip Glass, who's like one of my favorites, Franz Ferdinand, Bishop Briggs, Maggie Rogers, like dream artists.
Wow.
I will say one that really sticks out is Nile Rodgers.
No, Rogers,
Um,
yes.
that was
Yes.
Coachella 2018. I was covering it for Babel. And I had it was just a crazy story. I had all of my, regular interviews set up, scheduled in advance. Then I was in the press tent, and we were also doing we were filming mostly video content. So all these interviews were on camera. So we were at the press tent, and then Nile Rodgers' team comes in. I don't remember if it was his publicist or his manager. But she comes in and she drops the news that like Nile Rodgers is going to be here in a couple of minutes. He's not doing any one-on-one interviews with anyone. He's just going to sit at a table with all the journalists together, and they can all ask their questions for a limited period of time. And then I was kind of bold in this moment, and I kind of introduced myself to her and explained to her what we were doing. And I was like, is there any way we could get like just 5 minutes with him, just one-on-one?
Hmm.
And she was like, let me check. And she comes back a few minutes later and she's like, you have 5 minutes. So me and the social media manager at Babel at the time, we were both like, yes. I was freaking out because like I'm a huge Nile Rodgers fan. Like I'm a huge David Bowie fan, and like Duran Duran and Daft Punk and like everything. And so I was freaking out, definitely nervous. I didn't get starstruck all the time because at that point I had met so many people, but I was definitely starstruck. And he sits down on the chair next to me. He's the nicest person ever. He's so warm, so open, so friendly, so chill. Um, and yeah, and we start talking. And then the other component that makes this extra special is that that was actually the weekend that Avicii, the producer, had passed away.
Mm.
And Niall had been working with him. And so that's kind of like, that's something about interviewing people, where you really have to like feel out the situation and build trust and be really careful about how you phrase things. Because if you, I wanted to ask about that, but if you, ask that in an aggressive way or in a certain
Hmm.
manner, like your intentions can not look so great and it can really ruin things. So you have to be super sensitive. But just the way that the conversation was going, I can tell Niall was open to it, and I think he could tell that I was like really listening, and I was coming at it from a good place. And it's
Hmm.
also the way that you phrase it too, right? So I kind of was like, like, how does it feel? Because you're here at Coachella, like it's one of the biggest music festivals in the US. You're here with your band performing. It's such a magical time. But like, do you also feel like there's kind of this, cloud hanging over it, or whatever? And um, oh my God, his response was amazing. Um, he was just saying like the best things about Avicii, and it was, I just don't see where I could have ever had that opportunity to not only speak to one of like my favorite musicians ever, but then also talk to him about something like that. That was such a tragic
Wow. What an amazing
time. So, and
thing.
then
Yes.
while that was happening, his publicist on the side was like, wrap it up. So it was very like high pressure, but he really helped
Yes.
like alleviate that. And that was
Yes.
special. Yeah.
Amazing. Um, what role do you see technology and social media playing in the future of the music industry?
Yeah. I think, I mean, of course, I think it's already democratizing
Yeah.
the industry for artists everywhere, both social media and technology. I think the technology is helping artists create music from the comfort of their own home. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on studio time
Studios.
anymore,
Yes. Yes.
or, expensive producers. And then social media, kind of takes away that gatekeeper that is the label. You don't, you know, years ago you needed a label in order to get people to listen to you. Now it's kind of up to you if you're consistent with it, and you can build your own audience. So,
DIYs everywhere.
mhm,
you know, do it yourself. So it's all available distribution. It's easy.
yeah.
So yes, the access is not as gate kept like before.
hmm I also think that it's cool to see how a lot of people are wearing a lot more hats now. Um, like, I think it's cool that a lot of musicians, again, kind of, they don't need a label necessarily in order to fund their music, because they
Yeah.
can um, use other creative outlets that, again, are still creative, to help fund themselves. So, for instance, I see a lot of musicians who are creating like educational courses, and that's how they get their income. Or they also are on YouTube, and like they get a stream of income from from YouTube, and then they use that to make their music. So I think that's another really cool thing that we didn't necessarily have access to a
Hmm.
long time ago. In terms of streaming, it's hard because I'm on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z. And so I feel a little bit more like a millennial, but I also do have Gen Z tendencies. And that's where my brain kind of splits in terms of like streaming and the way that music is being consumed right now, because
Yes.
I'm seeing a lot of songs that are just getting shorter and shorter, like 2-minute songs. And
Ooh.
um, I'm definitely more still like an album person. Like I have the attention span where I can sit down and listen to an album. I prefer to be taken into that world and like really live with it for a second. Um, but yeah, like, songs are getting shorter, and people, they're, I know that's like could be an unpopular opinion. A lot of people do like that better. Um, I don't know. Like, is there room for both?
No, well, I think adaptive music gonna make that legal, acceptable, and the music will get
Yeah.
shorter, yes, because of adaptive music and the technology and where we're going.
Mhm.
The reason why I ask some of these questions because I'm always curious and I want to know because I know it's gonna happen. Maybe I'm asking them too early. Maybe I'm 5 years early, or 3 years early, or 10 years early. But I think 5 years early, maybe. But we're on the way. I know there's young entrepreneurial uh, creative talent out there that's actually building some new technology that maybe whether they already out there and we're not heard of them, or they in the process being made,
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to evolve. Yes, absolutely. I'm always interested, because yes, it will change the way artists make money. It will dictate how much, because going from physical to digital, big cut to everybody, from labels to managers to artists and all of that. Big major cuts financially and revenue I'm talking about. And the new way with adaptive music, and also, oh yeah, because now you're talking about seconds. Your song is part of that song, or part of that video, part of that stream, those whatever was created. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
um Share with us some of the best practices for successful influencer marketing in entertainment and tech.
Yeah. Um, Best practices for influencer marketing. A lot of people are saying this word. I hate to be
Yeah.
the next person that says it, but I'm gonna because it's true. Authenticity. I really do think that that is key, especially in influencer marketing. Um, I know there are brands that will provide scripts for influencers to read. I'm definitely not one of those people. My personal philosophy is that the influencer is the one who built their channel to be where it is today. And so they're smart and I trust them and they have an idea of what's going to perform well and what's not. Um, for instance, if you think like unboxing videos, those are the way to go. And then you partner with an influencer whose audience hates unboxing videos. Like it's not going to perform well. I personally, as a consumer, when I'm scrolling through my feed, I can tell within the first 2 seconds if it's an ad or not, just by the way that they're talking or if it's a change.
Yeah.
And what I personally do is I'll probably keep scrolling. There are a few instances where that's not the case, and I'm actually interested. But again, it's because they've integrated it in a way that it feels real. Um, I think another thing that's crucial is consistency. My biggest nightmare is working with other influencers in a way that feels transactional. I never want to be like, hey, we're commissioning you for this one video. Okay, we got it. Thanks. Bye. I try really hard to, when I activate an influencer, activate them for at least a couple of posts. Because
Hmm.
it's the rule of 7 in marketing where someone needs to see something at least 7 times in order to make a purchase. Um, I mean, that's so true. It's like, think about anything in life. Like, let's say a young Billie Eilish is on the scene. Uh, you hear her song on the radio. You're like, who's this Billie person? And you're like, okay. And then you kind of forget about it. You notice. And then all of a sudden you see her on a talk show and you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I saw her again. And then you're listening to a Spotify playlist and now her song is on your Spotify playlist. By the 7th time that happens, you're like, okay, I'll bite. And now suddenly you're a Billie Eilish super fan. Um, but I definitely think that's also the case for influencers. So I try to activate them for multiple pieces of content across different platforms. I want it to feel like it's really integrated into their lives. If they just post
Hmm.
about a product one time, like, is it really something that they're using? Hard to say. And also, consumers are scrolling and they see so many posts every single day. It's
Yes.
it's so hard to break through with just one post. So, and then also, I think building a community is so important for me. So I want to activate those influencers multiple times. I want to use them for other launches or initiatives that we have coming up if it's appropriate. When we have an event, they're absolutely invited. Just like really keeping that conversation always open. If they ever need anything, um, they know that they can reach out to me and the team. Um, of course, while still looking for new influencers too, but keeping that community for sure.
Interesting. Let's talk about experiential marketing. Yes, and how does it influence and an engaging audience?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think experiential marketing is vital, especially in a post-COVID world. I feel like I don't know if you feel this way, but the sense that I've gotten from people is that they're still really eager to like get out of the house and get FaceTime with people in person, especially influencers also because something that a lot of people don't realize is that they mostly are just inside creating content all day. Like they really are uh, just in their homes or wherever they shoot. So I think that's really important. I think it's an absolutely essential way to have a more intimate connection with
Hmm.
people, because everyone gets hundreds of emails every day. Everyone sees hundreds of social posts a day. To really break through that noise, I think it's like how how frequently does someone get to actually meet the team behind
Yeah.
that brand? Um, so I think, yeah, having people come out, they see that you're making the effort to put this together. They get to meet the whole team. I think it's also really a beautiful way to um, receive feedback from influencers that you have been working with for a while.
Mm.
Um, like just recently, we had a dinner with influencers and media a few weeks ago, and it was my first time seeing some of these influencers in, for some people, months, some people years.
Hmm.
And we email back and forth, but it's very like, you know, I feel like it's in at these events where you can kind of have a little bit more deeper conversations, kind of check in with the people that you've been working with, be like, hey, how has this been going? What's working? What's not? And they can be like a little bit candid, which I think is really valuable. And then, of course, getting new people to come to these events as well, showing them, who we are, raising that brand awareness, building that brand affinity. And I think if you do it well, they naturally will just want to promote the brand because they're so excited about it and they love everyone who works there.
Amazing. What's next for you in your career? What's the plans for the future? What's on the I wouldn't say the drawing board, but what's in the vision further than that?
Yeah. Um yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm at a pretty good place right now. I um in my current role at Sennheiser, um I feel like I've been I have more confidence. I'm taking everything that I've learned from my previous experience. I'm using it to delegate things and um build that structure again, like I talked about. Um I think my passion for music is really helping me excel in this role that I'm currently in, because um I'm building the vision that I finally want to build. And when I'm leading people, they see that passion and that vision, and
Yeah.
they they take that direction from someone who feels like a peer rather than just like another boss or manager or whatever. So um, I'm excited to finally. I think this is like kind of the person who I've been my whole professional career. I'm excited to finally start leaning into it more and really
Hmm.
lean into myself more and my own passions. Looking to the future, I really love curating, and what I mean by that is I love literally curating music. Like I'm always making playlists, and I love that. Also curating people. Partly what I love about meeting other people is if I meet an engineer, and then I meet a singer songwriter, and that songwriter mentions that they really need a producer for this project, and I'm like, oh, I met this other producer. I love doing that kind of stuff. I love, as we just talked about, I love events, and
You're the industry matchmaker.
I mean, that's kind of the goal. Like I would love to, and this is me kind of speaking broadly, but sometime in the future, do some sort of event like that where we're bringing people together like that, and then there's a music component to it. Um, I do like being, I like leading and kind of being the face, and we talked about my on-camera experience. If there's like a way to kind of like tie that into um what I do in the future, I think that would be really exciting as
Yeah,
well.
maybe you'll take some of the stuffiness out of these some of these network events where it's a little stuffy. It became unnatural. Like literally, it's scripted.
Hmm.
When you go to some of these network events, it's like why everybody's so stiff? Why nobody's relaxed?
Hmm.
Natural, being themselves. Yeah,
Hmm.
be at your best, but relax so you can. Because when you relax, you're able to you can communicate better and do better business and
Hmm.
come up, be more creative in the way you communicate and ideas that's going to flow out of you.
Hmm. Oh,
My
100%.
honor. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
And I think
yes.
that's like that's how music also helps me in the PR and
Yeah,
marketing piece, because
yeah.
just last night I was at a a show, and I was talking to the opening act, and
Yeah.
I introduced myself as someone from Sennheiser, and we were talking for
Yeah.
a little bit. And then, like halfway through the conversation, I mentioned that I'm also a musician. And immediately when I said that, their eyes lit up, and they were like, "Oh, like they were like that makes so much more sense." Because they were like, "I was wondering, like, how could you really work, at a company like that without knowing how the products work?" And I can tell that there was immediately a camaraderie there and like a trust
Cool.
there, and they saw
See?
that I knew.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not knocking people who are not musicians who are in these types of roles. There
No,
are
just anything. Could be whatever it is. Yes. Yes. I get it.
yeah, like I some of those are like the most successful people I look up to, a lot of the people who are just
Absolutely. Yeah.
marketing PR professionals. But I do think that being a musician really, gives me an edge as well, and has really come in handy. Just to your point about like
Yeah.
being comfortable and everything, it's like
Yeah.
when I'm talking to these influencers and journalists, it really does feel like I'm just among peers. Of course, you want to be professional and like maintain boundaries, but um you can still show them that you're a real human
Yes.
and not just some like
Absolutely.
corporate person
Yes.
sending
Yes. That.
contracts.
Yes. Yes. Um, any upcoming project you'd like to announce or advertise or promote? So for our listeners and viewers on Soundbreaker are able to reach out to you or wait for this product.
Yeah. um hmm. Lots of exciting stuff coming up that I can't
Yes.
specify,
Hmm.
um but just be on the lookout. um Lots of music coming up too from my musician point of view. Nothing that I can really promote just yet.
We got the
But
keyboard back there. We see it.
yeah,
So it's ready. I
it's
would
ready
ask you to
to
play a couple of tunes for us.
go. Yeah, that'd be fun. But
Yes.
yeah, I think just look me up on LinkedIn and connect, and I try to keep it as up to date as possible. So lots of really
Yes.
exciting things in the pipeline.
Yes. Connecting with people is very important. Always connecting. It doesn't matter through LinkedIn, through whatever. That's how we met. That's how a lot of business being done through such connections.
Hmm.
So don't be afraid. Reach out. As you see, she's amazing. She has a lot to offer and, help if you guys need any help in marketing. Um, any advice for a lot of these younger entrepreneurs that who are starting out and who wants to carve their path into the music business like you did? Any advice
Hmm.
you would like to share with our viewers and listeners who are going to be inspired by you?
Yeah. That's very nice. Thank you. And also thank you. I feel like you've been such a good host, and immediately made me feel so much more comfortable as soon as the camera is
Oh,
turned on.
thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Definitely. You were like, we're just having a conversation. I was like, you're right. We've
Yes,
had
it
many
is.
conversations
Yes,
just with, I mean,
yes,
other
yes,
people. This is the first time you and I are meeting, but
yes.
yes. Uh, so advice for aspiring entrepreneurs. Yeah, I would say uh, put in the hours if you're just starting out. Honestly, I feel like most of my career to up till this point has been, I mean, still, but is just putting in the extra effort, and really showing up and over communicating. I think, well, if you're in PR or marketing, 95% of this job is communication, right? So I
Uh-huh.
think just if you're able to communicate with whoever you're working with, that is something that's absolutely crucial and will help build trust. Um, like, I think people start to get nervous if you owe them a project and they have no idea where it's at. And so if you just reach out to them being like, hey, this is being worked on, haven't forgotten about it, you'll have it by like specific day time, then that immediately gives them some relief and makes them think like, okay, I know I'm being taken care of. I think just constantly reassuring people that that everything is okay. Honestly, you just want to make sure that everyone feels like everything's okay, if that makes sense. So I think just that, I think also being willing to do a lot of like the tactical work that might not be quote unquote sexy or whatever. I think doing that so that the people that you're reporting to can focus on other things, or you can make them look good. I do think that's like so crucial as well. Yeah. And, like, I mean, there's times when I was like on a trade show floor and I was there to connect with media and influencers, but I was
Yeah.
also picking up trash off the ground. It's like, okay, that's not part of my job, but I think just going the extra mile, people notice that instead of like kind of just standing around or feeling like you're too above that. So really just going the extra mile, and also don't be afraid to reach out to people for help. I think having a mentor is such a crucial thing. And if you ever just like want to connect with a brand or an influencer or whoever, just reach out to them, because
Yeah.
again, like I said, I think everyone just wants to build a bigger community and wants to get FaceTime with people, and people want to feel useful. It's just like human psychology, I feel. And so people are, especially in the audio and tech industries, I would say people are surprisingly very willing to help and want to do so. So over
Interesting. Well,
communicate.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do all the little things, do the most, and reach out for help.
Amazing. So get involved. What are you saying in the end? Get involved.
Yes.
Nothing too big, too small for you. Just be part of it. Show that you're interested. Show that you are real.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Be real.
Yes. Well, I want to thank you again for coming on to our episode at Soundbreaker. And this concludes today's episode. Again, on Soundbreaker, please make sure to follow us on socials and stay tuned for our next episode. Thank you, and pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to share the Soundbreaker podcast. And if you are joining us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Until next time.